Are you a post-traumatic parent who is trying to renegotiate boundaries with your family of origin and you're just dreading the holidays? Maybe the thought of Thanksgiving is setting shivers down your spine as you imagine spending time with your family of origin and balancing that with parenting your children. Maybe your inner child is so terrified that you can't even focus on your actual children because this season of the year is just so triggering. Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert. If this is a topic that interests you, if you want to learn how to manage triggers around the holiday, welcome. We get it. We're post-traumatic parents too. Click subscribe below so you never miss another video. So today we're going to talk about renegotiating the holidays with our families of origin while we're parenting our children. Very often the holidays are a real time of stress for us, even though they're meant to be a time of relaxation and closeness and marking traditions. They end up becoming unnecessarily stressful. And if we're from a family of origin that doesn't really respect boundaries so well, this can get even worse. So when we're at a family holiday party, a lot of times we sort of slip back into earlier, more primitive roles, and we're treated as younger versions of ourselves. And very often that younger version of ourselves actually sort of starts poking through, which can be very unnerving. So maybe 14-year-old you had absolutely no idea what to do when a relative cornered her and started criticizing her about her weight. And adult you totally knows what to say and do. An adult you totally knows how to put that person in their place or how to end the conversation tactfully and get out of there. But 14-year-old you really didn't know how to do that. And then you're at a family holiday party and suddenly great Uncle Mike is criticizing your weight and you're completely speechless and tongue-tied and you actually want to burst into tears exactly as you would have when you were 14. This is because our brains are a little bit lazy. And the way the human brain works is a lot of our memories are not actually encoded within our brains. They're actually encoded within places and within stuff and within people. So I know, for example, when I was a kid, it used to really weird me out if I was walking with my mom in the street and she met one of her classmates from elementary school or high school and she would start giggling and like singing old songs with them and talking about old times and just talking in a way that really didn't sound like her. And it really irked me. I used to get so weirded out. I used to say, I'm embarrassed. I didn't want to be around it. But the truth is, I was uncomfortable meeting a younger version of my mom. But that version of my mom wasn't entirely encoded in my mom's brain. It was encoded in the dynamic between her and her old friends. So it only ever came out when she was around those friends. There's a fascinating book called Stuff that talks about how some of our memories are sort of encoded in our stuff, and that's why we like our stuff and why we keep our stuff around us. And we can figure a lot of things out from people's stuff or which stuff they hold on to or lack thereof. So it's not surprising that younger you is encoded with holiday party where Uncle Mike comes over and starts criticizing you, because that part of you has sort of been resolved a long time ago. And that inner child is sort of in the back of your brain. You don't think about it very much till you meet Uncle Mike. And then all of a sudden it just comes rearing out and suddenly it's in charge. This is just an artifact of our brain. So the first thing we have to know is when we're going back home, when we're going to a holiday party, we have to be very intentional about, oh, a much younger version of me might suddenly pop out. I'm not going to be weirded out by that. This is little me popping out because it's kind of encoded with, sitting at this table in the kids' seat and being around these people and smelling this food. We know smell is so evocative of memory. So that's why it's like that. But if we're post-traumatic parents and we're trying to parent in accordance with our values, and we have set some boundaries with our family of origin. Maybe we're parenting very differently than our family of origin did. Maybe there are people in our family of origin who have a lot to say about that, and maybe they feel criticized if we're parenting differently. They don't like seeing us be responsive and intentional and gentle with our kids. So when we're reasoning with a child, or when a child says, I don't want to hug that person, I don't want to sit in that person's lap, we're not going to force them, and we're just going to say, he prefers a fist bump right now, or she's going to say hi from the safety of my lap. She's going to wave. She's going to give you a virtual hug, whatever it is. And they're like, well, in my day, that was considered rude. Children have to obey the adults. If I tell her, give me a hug, because that's going to really make the kid want to give you a hug. But anyway, I digress. Then they had to give me a hug. Okay, well, that's not the way I'm parenting. So how do we handle that? Especially when we are in the process of renegotiating boundaries. We want to have contact. This is not in a situation where we've gone gray rock. This is in a situation where we want to have a relationship, but we also want our boundaries respected. So there's 4 really smart tactics for dealing with that relative, that great Aunt Bertha who wants to know, why don't you smack your kid? Why is your kid on Ritalin? Why is your kid not on Ritalin? Why is your kid not on a gluten-free diet? Why is your kid, yes, on a gluten-free diet? What do you mean your kid has allergies? In my day, we didn't believe in allergies. All of those things. I know some of you are getting triggered as you're listening to this. Some of you are starting to just have a panic attack. I know I am. 4 really smart tactics for how to deal with this kind of relative. I call them over, under, around, and through. So let's go to under first, because it's sometimes the easiest one. So great Aunt Bertha wants to know why you're keeping your kid off allergens. In my day, we didn't believe in allergies. She wants to know why your kid isn't on Ritalin, is on Ritalin, and you go under. Great Aunt Bertha, I see how much you love me. You are telling me all of these things because you really care. It's important to you that Jake turns out okay. It's important to you that he be a healthy kid. You care so much about us. You want to give us all this advice. I love your love. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. And I love that you love us. That's so beautiful. I really appreciate your love. Done right, this can be a very disarming tactic, especially when we have that older relative who really is well-meaning and really doesn't believe in allergies, isn't just trying to interfere for the sake of tearing us down, but honestly doesn't get it. Why do you reason with your kids so much? In my day, we just said, put on your coat, and they had to listen, or we gave them a slap. Oh, I love how much you love me. You really see that I'm a frazzled mom with a lot of kids and I'm busy, and you really want to help me and you want things to be more efficient. I really see that. It's really kind of you to care so much about us. I like to reason with my kids, but I really appreciate how much you love me. So that's under. Now, then we go to over. Over is when we try to recruit that person. We kind of trick that person into being our ally. This could be a little manipulative, and it will only work again in a situation where the person is relatively benign and well-intentioned. So over is when you ask that person to coach you through telling a different person who doesn't get it how to handle it. So great Aunt Bertha comes over and says, I heard you put Jake on Ritalin. I think that stuff's poison. In our day, when kids didn't behave in school, they hit them with a ruler, and that was that. I don't think he should be on that medicine. And you say, Aunt Bertha, yeah, it was such a hard decision to put Jake on medicine. We did that with the advice of his pediatrician and a psychiatrist, and we're monitoring it really closely. Great Aunt Sally over there is totally not going to get it. How do you think I should talk to her about it? I wouldn't want her to say anything to Jake that might hurt his feelings. What do you think I should say to Aunt Sally to make sure that she understands that this is our decision as parents and it's really not up for debate, especially not public debate? And again, disarming to the well-intentioned person who's actually trying to help and is not trying to tear you down. It can really be helpful because then you're recruiting them as an ally. And next thing you know, they're your biggest protector and your staunchest defender. People like to be the ally and they like to be the expert. So by making them the ally and the expert, this can really help. Another tactic, and this works better for people who are a little bit more malicious or a little bit more, I guess, deficient at understanding boundaries, is around. Around simply means talking about everything except the topic that they want to talk to you about. I heard that your son Jake is on Ritalin. If you would just take him off sugar, my second cousin's third brother's best friend's dog went off sugar and now does not have any ADHD. Oh my gosh, Aunt Karen, I love your necklace. It's so beautiful. Where did you get it? I just adore it. And then, did so and so make did so and so make pasta this year? I love her pasta. It's delicious. Oh my goodness, I have not seen Melissa in years. Look at her, and her baby is so cute. So around is, I'm going to talk to you about everything that isn't this topic. I'm going to hopefully distract you and just get you off on something else, because you and I am never going to convince you that my kid should be on Ritalin. You are never going to convince me that I should follow your, friend's neighbor's dog's treatment plan. Like, this is never going to happen. There's really no point. So I'd rather not ruin this encounter. I know you're not terribly psychologically minded and you're not someone who gets hints. Around works really well for me in social situations. As a clinical psychologist, it sometimes happens that people will come over to me and make fairly broad hints or say straight out that they know a patient of mine, or they know about a situation in a school I consult in, or in in a particular series of schools that I am the consultant at or I'm the speaker at, where they want to tell me about the issue. And it's really confidential. It's not, I'm also not going to be working on my free time. I'm not going to discuss the problems in a particular school district's fourth grade classrooms with my great aunt. Like, this is just not a conversation we're having. I'm not having that conversation with my neighbor. I'm not having that conversation with some acquaintance that I just met 5 minutes ago. Just not going to be doing that. So around can really work for that. I love your top. It is so beautiful. Where did you get it? Look, oh wow, that color really suits your eyes. Did someone ever do your colors? I'm just going to so bombard you with love, and I am so going to get you off the topic that you're going to forget that that I am seeing this person, and you want to tell me that they were always really, really mean even before they got divorced, and that's why I don't want to hear about it. I don't particularly need your opinion. I don't particularly need your information. You'd be surprised at how many times people come over to a psychologist at a party to tell them about a patient and they're not even seeing that person. Either way, I can't confirm or deny seeing anyone. Around works really well. Right? It's kind of cold to be like, yeah, I'm not going to be discussing my patients. I'm not going to be discussing the schools I consult in. I'm not going to be discussing the in-service day I'm going to be giving in your school next month so that you can suggest the topic. Like, not at a holiday party. That's just not what I'm going to be doing right now. Whether that's simply because I'm not in the mood of being at work right now, whether that's because there are like some political issues, or there are some complicated issues that I just don't want to go into in a social situation where people can be overhearing me, whether there's actual confidentiality, around can work really well. And it keeps things social so that I don't have to like resort to walking away from the person. It keeps it pretty friendly. Finally, we have through. Through is sometimes the most honest tactic, but it very often only works with people who are similarly honest, or with people who are extremely malicious and will not be redirected anyway. Through simply means setting the boundary with your words. So saying, we're not going to be discussing our parenting choices. We're just going to be asking you to respect our parenting choices. We need you to respect our parenting choices. So it's like, but sugar, I need you to respect my parenting choices. I'm sure you'll understand that you need to respect my parenting choices. I'm sure you know not to talk about this in front of Jake. This is not something that my child needs to hear. So this either works with, like I said, very well-intentioned people who are at the same level of psychological insight as you, where you're just saying straight out, yeah, I can't confirm or deny knowing any patient. That's just not something I talk about, right? With somebody who I think is socially savvy, psychologically well-resourced, seems stable and smart, I can do that. And with somebody who's extremely malicious and just hell-bent on having their say and saying their thing, and like, you're an evil mom because you give your kid sugar, You gave your kid Ritalin, you didn't give your kid Ritalin, you don't slap your kids, you are putting your kids in non-hypoallergenic sheets. I don't know. It doesn't matter. That kind of person who just wants to have their say, your generation is raising snowflakes. That kind of person who just wants to have their say, sometimes we just have to shut that down. And you shut that down by, thank you for respecting my parenting decisions. My parenting decisions are not up for discussion. You're not going to talk about my patients, right? That's straightforward, really nice thing. Now, if I want to soften it because it's social and it's not Great Aunt Bertha, then I can be a little bit more, I'm sure you understand that that's not a topic I can discuss at a holiday party, right? But that's a little bit more awkward. So I'd much rather go with the other three, unless, like I said, I know that that person is really psychologically stable and can handle that straightforward, yeah, I'm shutting that down, or really, really the opposite of psychologically stable, and they're just going to have their say and they want to have their say, and I'm not going to engage. So it's just straightforward. Thank you for respecting my boundary around that and moving on. Because as triggered as we might feel at a holiday party, as triggered as our inner children are feeling and our younger selves are feeling, as alert as our trauma app is, like, so the trauma app that's like, must people please, must listen to whatever Great Aunt Bertha says, must not leave this party till the bitter end. All of those things. Thank you, trauma app, for trying to keep me safe. I'm an adult. I've got it. I will keep me safe. I will act in accordance with my values. And I am going to take away your permissions to handle this interaction now, because I know my over, under, around, and through. I know exactly what I'm going to say about those things. I've rehearsed it. I've discussed it with a significant other. I've discussed it with whoever I go to for advice. These are the really smart over, under, around, and throughs that I'm sticking to. So thank you, trauma app. But no, I don't actually have to explain myself to Great Aunt Bertha. She's never going to get it. So that's okay. I can simply go over, under, around, or through. And having these techniques in our back pocket so that when we're heading off to a family party, it's right there. I know what I'm going to say. I know how I'm going to handle, hearing that I shouldn't be eating carbs because don't I want to lose the baby weight, and hearing that my daughter's a little chubby and shouldn't I be telling her what to or not to eat. My kid should or shouldn't be on Ritalin. My kid should or shouldn't stay at the party till late. My kids are too wild. My kids aren't wild enough. My kids are hugging people. My kids are not hugging people, whatever. If I know what my over, under, arounds, and throughs are, it's so much easier to deal with those, especially when we're dealing with toxic families that really know how to pull our strings and really know how to press our buttons and really know exactly where our triggers are because they installed them in the first place. So when we have those techniques, then it's sometimes a little easier to risk going to a family holiday party, whereas before it maybe was, yeah, I'm going gray rock, I'm not going at all. And now it's like, well, I'm going to go for about an hour. I know my over, under, around, and through. I know what my boundaries are. I know what I'm going to tolerate and what I'm not going to tolerate. I have a value of speaking respectfully to elderly relatives, but that doesn't mean listening to a 45-minute lecture on the evils of Ritalin and the wonders of spanking kids. So I know how to handle that and how to deal with that, because in the end, it's my parenting, it's my life. I get to live it in accordance with my values. I get to be kind in how I communicate those values to other people, but ultimately I do get to communicate those values to other people. And then it's on the other people to decide if they're going to respect them or not. And if they're not going to respect them, then it's back on me to decide how much interaction I'm going to have with those people. We're not stuck. Very often when we go back to our family of origin, we feel very stuck and pulled back into old patterns because those old patterns are encoded in those relationships. That doesn't mean we're in prison. This is a prison whose doors were never locked. We did grow up. We can remove those permissions from the trauma app. We can parent our children differently than we were parented. We can prevent our inner child from raising our actual children. We can set boundaries. It's difficult, but we can. If you like this content, if you find this helpful for upcoming holidays, I'm so glad. Please click subscribe below so you never miss another video. If you want to have more personal interactions. If you wish this video had been a Q&A so you could ask some questions because your great Aunt Bertha is just worse than mine, then Instagram is where we do that. You can find the post-traumatic parenting community on Instagram at Dr. Kozlowitz Psychology. We also have a Facebook group. If you want longer form content that really dives deeply into these topics, check out the Post-Traumatic Parenting podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, the Post-Traumatic Parenting book will be coming out soon, available wherever you get your books. Bye-bye for now.